and the threats that are available out there online at the minute. I am recording this session, so I will distribute it afterwards. If you have any questions, please pop them in the comments on the top right there. And if you are on social media, if you're on Twitter, then please do use the hashtag DCEdTechFest, even if it's just to say that you're taking part. But if you can join the conversation, then that's all the better. So I'll hand over to David now, and we'll get on with this. So I'm running between the two sessions, so I'll be dipping in and out of both sessions. So thank you very much, David.
Okay, Wayne, thank you very much. I'm just going to make sure you can hear me okay. Just to start with, if I guess that you can, for someone can let me know if they can't, that would be great. Thank you, Luke. Thank you very much. Yeah, Wayne, if you can just keep adding people if they join late. I think everyone's on mute as well. That's really helpful. So good morning, everybody. As Wayne said, my name is David Wright. I'm director of the UK Safe Internet Centre at the charity SWGFL. It's my pleasure to be able to give you this kind of input. And Wayne, thank you ever so much for the invitation and the opportunity to be able to share some of this information as well. I'm hoping that this is going to be interactive. And so I'm very much going to welcome questions to be raised as we go through. Don't stand on ceremony and wait to the end. Please do. There's how many there's 15 of us, so it's a small and select group. 16. It's a smaller select group, so please do raise questions about anything that I might mention if you want to find out more, if there's points of clarification, but also your experiences as well. I'm going to share some slides in a moment. I'm going to just reflect back on perhaps some of the last 8 months as well that we've seen. I'm then going to look a little bit more around some of the guidance that we've published and indeed has been published in response to online harms and restrictions, or the COVID restrictions that we've seen. Share some other data as well as a couple of resources that may be of help or of interest to many of you, and then I'm going to finish off with some other signposting as well. So to start off, I'm going to share my slides, and hopefully.
Hi, yes, sorry, I'm having to jump between the two different sites here, and I could see Wendy was talking when I clicked back on here, so I thought she was already in full stride. So yes, sorry. Thank you very much for coming along this morning to the EdTech Demo Festival.
Wayne, sorry, can I?
Wendy,
Wayne,
somebody that we've worked with before. Lots of great experience around Google and Google Education. So I'll go over to Wendy now, who will.
Sorry, everybody, just a moment.
More of an experience with you. I will be dipping between the two that are running at the minute. But if you have any questions, please do drop them into the chat. And if you want to follow us on Twitter, please use the hashtag DCEdTechFest. Thank you very much.
Wayne, I don't know if you can hear me or not. It doesn't sound like you can hear me. No, it doesn't sound like you can hear me, Wayne. No, okay. We'll press on, everybody. Hopefully, we'll get hold of Wayne shortly. So, hopefully, I'm sharing a set of slides, and hopefully everyone can see that. And so, digital safety update is what I'm going to be sharing with you as you can kind of see here. So. Like I said, I'm David Wright, Director of the UK Safe Internet Centre. So the UK Safe Internet Centre is a partnership of 3 charities. We are co-funded by the European Commission, at the moment at least. As the National Centre, we're one of 32 European Safe Internet Centres that together we make up the European InSafe network. Now, in the UK, these 3 charities, I'm actually from SWGFL, with the lead partner within the centre. We have a number of obligations. We're responsible for managing illegal child abuse content online, which is what the IWF do, the national agency tasked with managing illegal CSAM content online, indeed taking down illegal content as well. We operate helplines, and I'm going to talk a bit about those later on too. So particularly helplines that support you, the children's workforce, around online safety issues, but also the National Reporting Centre for Legal but Harmful Content as well. Our primary role, like our 31 sister centres across Europe, our primary role is one of awareness raising. And so it's therefore contributions just like this that is really important to us, where we can share and raise awareness about the issues. It's all as well about producing campaigns, resources, and indeed services. And when I mention campaigns there, the highlight in the calendar that we have is Safer Internet Day. Now, hopefully, the term Safer Internet Day means something to most, if not all of you. I hope our role is one of national coordinators to facilitate and to orchestrate activity for Safer Internet Day, and which is always clearly in February. I'll finish this session with giving you a sneaky peek into the plans and the activities that will take place come next February. That's as well where I'll specifically finish this session. So, like I say, we're one of 32 centres. I'm just going to move the chat box over there in case anyone is making any particular comments. Like I say, we're one of 32 centres. So if you do happen to work with children or with families from across Europe, it's a ready-made pool of resources. We all pretty much do the same thing across the 32 centres, but in their own culture, context, and language. So please do go search out for InSafe, Safer Internet Network. You'll be able to access all sorts of different resources. If you, like I say, if you happen to work with children or with families from across Europe. So as I kind of go in, we've all clearly been affected. Indeed, across the globe, 1.5 billion children have been affected, particularly by school closures introduced by some of the COVID-19 restrictions. One of the activities that we have done, or we did actually and published in June initially, was to compile some information. This was to do with, we work for the United Nations as well around protecting children online. And so we released in June, the UNITU released Global Child Online Protection Guidelines, which we led the revision of. And to coincide with that, we did this compilation of trying to evidence and find information and data that's been published to do with the impact on children of the particular restrictions. And they kind of they followed three particular headlines. And so digital migration, as we think back to last March, and indeed for many schools where we are at the moment as well, as restrictions were introduced, this digital migration that took place, if not all of us, many of us kind of turned to the internet to maintain some form of normality in terms of whether it's socializing or contact or consumption or entertainment, or indeed, obviously, from this session's perspective, children's learning. Many of it migrated online. And just to kind of evidence some of the extraordinary migration that we saw. So for the first week of lockdown in the UK, BT reported daily internet traffic up by some between 35 and 60% within the day, and enormous increases. In the US, Verizon reported a 22% increase in web traffic. So in terms of what is it that we were, in terms of content and the consumption of content, other kind of indicators, in Australia reported a 57% rise in demand for news and news services. We saw as well, I mean, evidently, lots of people turned to streaming services. And if you remember back, Netflix made a couple of kind of announcements. So one was to reduce the bit rate, to maintain, as they put it, customer experience, and the delivery, to maintain the demand, to deliver demand against the increased requests that they were taking. They actually quadrupled their capacity to deliver content during April and May. So colossal kind of increases in terms of infrastructure. We also saw as well all the major social networking, social media, and indeed messaging services. So Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, all reported breaking screen time records during March and April. As people migrated all their attention online. Zoom in December 2019 had 10 million subscribers, and by March, at the end of March 2020, had 200 million subscribers. So again, extraordinary kind of growth in use of this digital platforms. And there was a lovely statement that the EU's digital chief said. So one of the things that she said was, amidst so COVID-19 restrictions, we've had, as she put it, a full-scale crash test of everything digital, as people just migrated whole-scale kind of online. So all the evidence and the data was very much there to support and to signpost and disclose the extent of this digital migration that took place. As we went into April, the second part of this was we saw many predictions being made. So particularly UNICEF, Europol, and We Protect all published predictions and indeed warnings about the impact on children. Like I said, UNICEF reported and said so 1.5 billion children across the world were affected by school closures. All of you will recognise that number. There was also concerns that they published, particularly if all three organisations, about the concerns that children were increasingly spending time online and perhaps unsupervised, particularly as parents were at home trying to work as well, less supervision of children. The NCA in May reported that there were 300,000 individuals online that posed a threat to children in terms of online abuse and particularly sexual abuse as well. And that was very much supported by Europol. And these were, like I said, these were all predictions that were published, which is really helpful for us. But I think the most important thing here was to try to understand and comprehend, well, what the actual impact has been. So try to find research, information, and evidence about, well, what have we, rather than predictions, what have we actually seen? And so that's what we've discovered as well. So we have seen particularly rises with regards to child sexual abuse online. We've seen rises in demand. So as people searching for that sort of content has increased, which has been reported particularly in India and in Spain. We've also seen reporting centres in the US. The National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children saw a doubling of reports made through their reporting mechanism about child sex abuse material online. In May, the IAAF, together with its partners, reported blocking access to 8.8 million pages of content known to contain child sexual abuse material just in the month of May. So there was certainly the starts of indicators in terms of a rise of illegal content online. But there was other sides of this as well in terms of the impact that the mental well-being side of this. Now we saw some really fascinating data. Young Minds produced a report based on looking at 2,500 children who had previously accessed mental health services. And they reported, or 32% of them reported, that these restrictions would make their situation significantly worse. But in terms of being online, that's what we were most interested in. And we saw Duke of Edinburgh's award surveyed some 10,000 children, and also Girl Guiding surveying some 6,500 15 to 18-year-olds. And unsurprisingly, 83% of children reported spending more time online. But the Girl Guiding survey was really interesting. It actually found and concluded, so 20% of 15 to 18-year-old girls, 1 in 5 of them reported the pressure or feeling the pressure to be online all the time. 26% of the same group reported they had this pressure to conform, increased pressure to conform to stereotypes online as well. So some particular impact in terms of embryonic data that we did start to see in terms of this restrictions that were particularly imposed. Now, I appreciate you can't read this, and this is just a synopsis of some of those data and those information that I've just kind of shared with you. And I thought I'd include this on here just for reference, so that when if you access the slides and indeed the recording later on, you've got some prompts as to some of the things that I've just mentioned. So there has been, and actually indeed since there's been some significant data that's proved this impact or disclosed this impact that's had on children. I'm sure many of you will have seen instances. Clearly within the UK too, there was concerns that as schools were closed to the majority of children, that they weren't able to access the same services that they would ordinarily do, whereas particularly with those children where home is neither a safe nor a happy place, and that's where the thoughts, I think, particularly over the summer, that's where our thoughts actually were. So, like I say, this was the landscape earlier on in the summer, and indeed, I guess, but for some of you, this may still be the case now. Whether that's not necessarily total, but partial closures as children have actually contracted, tested positive, and bubbles have been had to self-isolate. And so with that, and like I say, this migration that we've seen online, this was perhaps the utopia that we would all kind of hope for, is that learning would clearly continue, but all done remotely. And in some cases that's true. We've seen that's been the case, but by no means not universal, for a whole host of different reasons, whether that's the preparedness for schools and colleges, or indeed if it's access to technology, which is clearly not universal. We've helped out the DFE in terms of the program for laptops and devices for disadvantaged children, which kind of continues through as well. But over this period, this is one of the central things that we've tried to do, is to publish guidance, and guidance ahead of its time. That's what we've endeavoured to do. So back in March, this was the first piece of guidance that we published. In actual fact, this was a week before the restrictions were introduced. So to start to help and provide some prompts and suggestions for schools and for colleges to consider when, in this particular case, going into some form of restriction or in some form of lockdown. So how to have this safer remote learning. And it was, as you can see, there was these kind of three headings that we talked about back in March around organisation, participation, and indeed technology. So prompting, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about those just in a moment, but trying to provide some form of prompt ahead of when the next sort of phase, if you like, the next phase of the restrictions would take place. The second one here, sorry, there's just a comment here around that someone's made in the chat, so I'm trying to keep an eye on both. The second piece of guidance that we published was we compiled in April. The helpline that we have received a dramatic increase in kind of calls related to particularly video conferencing platforms, and so what we set about doing was try to compile information around the various different video conferencing platforms that we have. Indeed, so 7 of them. So you can see here the one for Zoom, and this information as well was really focused around privacy, the privacy aspects. And if you remember back in March, Zoom came under some criticism around some of the privacy and security aspects of the platform. But we also included Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, Adobe Connect, and BlueJeans as examples. Now, one of the most important things here, and I've included the Zoom one here, what we went through and tried to identify the minimum age requirements. And as you can see here, Zoom, in terms of their terms and conditions, has a minimum age requirement of 16, which evidently makes it not necessarily suitable for the majority of children. And so that was one of the things that we always took the care to highlight. So in May, we're now, if we think back, we're now at the height of restrictions. In May, we published guidance to support those professionals working at home with children. So trying to provide some support and some guidance for them in their particular circumstances about how to work with children, how to set up environments, and as well the sort of connectivity and what to expect indeed from children. Then as we kind of move through, this was published towards the end of May, ahead of the planned reopening of schools. So this really relates back to that point I made about, you know, those children who have been in situations where they've not particularly been happy. They've been on screens an awful lot more. So the sorts of things in terms of safeguarding that may well have that may well surface when schools start to reopen, and indeed that children reacquaint themselves and reaccess some of those services that they were particularly familiar to before Easter. I should add as well, you can see in the red bars here the links to where this guidance is indeed actually published. This one was published in July to do with in connection with the DfE's announcement around online tutors. And this followed a conversation that we had, a discussion that we had around the appointment, the recruitment, the selection, and the appointment of tutors. So tutoring clearly is a regulated activity just in the same way. So it was trying to provide, again, some pointers and some guidance to help support that process too. And where we are at the moment, this is the latest one. This was published at the end of August around safer blended learning. So supporting those strategies and plans that all schools should have, would suggest, around having a strategy that can be implemented instantaneously, immediately, should any form of lockdown or restriction be imposed locally. And so making across three particular headings. So leadership, expectations, and indeed preparation. So in terms of leadership, who's responsible? Who's the nominated person that's kind of leading this and will define? Now, clearly, it will probably be a team of people as well, but there'll be a nominated lead. Making sure that your policies are up to date. Now, that relates as well back to some of the safeguarding guidance that the DfE published over the summer in terms of updating keeping children safe in education, or supplementary information to do with keeping children safe in education too. So, for example, how reporting mechanisms change, child protection reporting mechanisms changed in the light of most children being at home. The second one there around expectations, this is a really fascinating one, I think. So thinking about and ahead of time, your expectations as an organisation about how these particular sessions should actually be undertaken online. So where should children be? Clearly, ideally, children shouldn't be in their bedroom, but that might be the only place, the only location that they've actually got that may be quiet, or that they may well be able to concentrate. Equally, timing, should you expect children, will they have access to connectivity into devices that enable them to participate? Behaviour, again, policies is all kind of linked into that as well. And then the final one around preparation. So what we'd always advocate, a little bit like a fire test or a fire drill, is that there's everybody, in order to know what would happen and what to do in the event of local lockdown, is that there is information shared such that everybody's familiar with what will happen on day one, such that then we can then easily switch. This is the platform that we're using. This is how to access it, and this is what will happen. This is how you can access content as well. Like I say, just like a fire drill, essentially. And so some form of induction program and awareness, particularly for staff, involving all staff, so that it becomes a natural or a normal thing if that actually does happen, and then everything continues online. Just a point as well around maintaining registers. So wherever there is interaction going on Often the questions that we get asked around, well, should it be recorded? Should it not be recorded? Should we use video? Should we not use video? That's all part and parcel of your expectations, I think. So predetermining what that looks like, but also equally thinking about this central register. So wherever there is contact going on, whether it is either tutor or lessons or curriculum, whatever it may well be, that you maintain some form of register so that you know who's communicating with who at any particular time. Just again, like you would do within school or college as well, knowing when that goes on. So hopefully that is helpful. Like I say, so this guidance is all published online, and you can see in there, like I said, those red bands where you'll be able to access that at all as well. So I wanted to give a couple of updates here. So one around 360 Safe, one about Project Evolve, and then give you a bit of insight around some of the helplines. So 360 Safe. If you're new to online safety, or this is a new subject to you, this is the place that I would suggest you start. 360 Degrees Safe, so 360safe.org.uk is our online self-review system. We published it in 2009. It's just over 10 years old. It's used by some 14,500 schools across the UK. Now it's entirely free to register and to use, and what it does is it prompts 28 forgive me, it's now 21, so since April it's been reduced from 28 aspects to 21 around broader online safety policy and practice. So about your policies, about your infrastructure, about your curriculum programs, and monitoring as well, just to kind of give you a sense. And it works off a standard 5-grade maturity model, so where you then rate yourself against each of these particular aspects, and you can see those in the horizontal bars, the spectrum, the array of aspects that it encompasses and covers. And when you've kind of rated yourself, when you step back, it becomes really obvious where your strengths are and where the areas that you might want to probably apply what is going to be limited time and resource, I guess, for the biggest impact. We can see, so with 14,500 schools, every year we publish a report that Professor Andy Phippen publishes, or authors for us, an annual assessment report. And so what it tells us, it discloses to us, it's where we're, as a nation, we're strong and where we need to apply. So you can see in the orange bar down the bottom there. So we know we're strong around filtering and policy, and we know that we're weakest in terms of self-rating, self-review and ratings. We're weakest around staff training, governor training, as examples. Then the bar in the top right, I appreciate this is a lot of information, the bar in the top right then just starts to disclose and break down across the 5 grades. We've got on the left-hand side that the light blue is inspirational practice, the orange is good. The grey bars are essentially, we've got an essential level, then yellow is developing, and dark blue on the right hand side is we don't have any particular practice. So you can start to see and get a sense of where we as a nation are kind of performing. It is great to see Andy this year took a reflection back on the last decade and to chart the progress that we as a nation have made in terms of prioritising child online protection. Then something a little newer, this was only published 2 weeks ago. This is based actually on the same data, but what we've actually done is we created this Schools Online Safety Index. You can see the link at the top there. Rather than necessarily link, just search for SWGFL Schools Online Safety Index. You'll find this. And what we did was we based on school performance and also engagement, which Andy compiled for us across local authority areas. We started to map these, which you'll be able to see kind of blurred in the background, and that map is kind of embedded on that page as well. So we've gone through all the 21 different aspects and aggregated those scores too, so you can go and find out the performance in your particular area. And I just want to point out, this is not a reflection of local authorities. We mapped this by local authority areas, merely for convenience, and then ranked them as well. Like I said, it was only published 2 weeks ago. Moving on, we're moving on here to Evolve. So Project Evolve is one of our major projects and undertakings at the moment. It's a huge project that actually stems back to some work that started in 2012. It builds on what is the UK Council for Internet Safety, UKIS's Education for a Connected World, so the competency framework. We are pretty critical of those schools or colleges that have kind of we put it a manufacturing approach to online safety. So online safety represents perhaps an annual event, and it's related to when I say manufacturing approach, we'll wheel a whole year group into a school hall, show them a video, wheel them out, and then the next group comes in, and so it is this conveyor belt of children, perhaps on Safe Internet Day. Now, often those videos that we use depict harm. And often extreme harm. Now, I think the premise here is that, well, if we show children what harm looks like, they'll be able to recognise it and navigate around it, and essentially and avoid it. I would just merely invite you to think about when you learned to drive a car. Did you merely sit down and watch films of car crashes so that's what a car crash looks like, I'll avoid it? We clearly don't learn like that. And so this is this massive piece of work that we've been undertaking. And so based on competencies at every particular age, a child's age. And so that's what Education for a Connected World represents, which we were involved with the production of that competency framework. So describing from ages 4 through to 18, at every age group, competencies across 8 different categories. And so each year it clearly builds on year. So all of a sudden now, if I'm teaching 11-year-olds or I'm teaching 15-year-olds, we've now started to describe, we know what those digital competencies of that child should be. Evolve takes that a stage further and starts to describe and provide activities based around each of those 339 different competency statements. And like I say, these are 8 different strands that follow children as they develop and as they get older. So as an example, this is the competencies for health, well-being and lifestyle from 11 to 14-year-olds. And you can see that it gives you an insight into what those competencies really sort of represent. And so we've built these activities that are, again, free to access. So projectevolve.co.uk is how you'll be able to access these and be able to get hold of the activities. One thing that we're working on at the moment, which is hugely exciting about, is the assessment side of it. So to be able to assess children based on concept cards, and then be able to record and indeed track children's digital skills as well. So that's a big piece of work, and like I say, projectevolve.co.uk is how you'll be able to access that one. So I mentioned helplines. We actually operate 3 helplines, which you can see here. So I mentioned the Professionals Online Safety Helpline, the UK Safe Internet Centre's helpline. Was set up now 10 years ago to support you, the children's workforce. So helpline at safeinternet.org.uk is how you'll be able to find and indeed access that. What it mainly aims to do is, I imagine you may well recognise some of this in terms of all the child protection or safeguarding instances that happen that you will see probably have some form of digital dimension to them. And so what they aim to do is just to take technology out of that particular equation to enable you to safeguard children without the perhaps the distraction that technology may well actually introduce. The revenge porn helpline. So this is actually aimed, and this is probably more for colleges amongst you. So the RP helpline is delivered on behalf of the Home Office, and it supports, by definition, adults. Since 2015, it's been an offence to post intimate images without consent. So we refer to it as intimate image abuse or non-consensual intimate image abuse. And so RP helpline has been there to support victims of intimate image abuse. And the final one, which is much newer, which is report harmful content. So reportharmfulcontent.com is was actually formally launched in December last year, so it's relatively new for us. Although it's been in pilot for 2 years, 24 months prior to that. And so what it aims to do is it provides some support and some guidance in order to help and indeed encourage people to report legal but harmful content. And I'm going to perhaps look at some examples a little bit later on when we got into a further slide about what that might encapsulate, and as well some of the feedback from a report. This is just a really quick shout out to some further resources that may be of particular interest. So Online Safety Live, again, onlinesafetylive.com is our outreach program. We've attended, so you can see there, 471 events over the course of the last 5 years or so, reaching some 22,000 people right across the country. So it's a huge program, and that now continues online temporarily, whilst bringing people together is not the right thing to do. So accessing those events, I know we have got some lined up in November, particularly for schools and for colleges in England. And so do please check out onlinesafetylive.com. Whisper is our anonymous reporting app. This actually, we were as a charity, we donated this to all schools during the course of lockdown to enable. It's a button that implants on your website to enable anyone to tell you something anonymously. So we're trying to increase, given that every child safeguarding instance will have some form of digital dimension to it, and probably they happen outside your organisation but surface inside. So we're trying to increase your ability to accept reports from children, indeed from parents and from the community as well, to tell you something, give them confidence to report something to you, perhaps anonymously. So again, do check out that. The button on the top right hand side is reputation alerts. So it's a mechanism to enable to understand when you're being mentioned online, and we're actually just reappropriating technology that exists that commercial companies use to understand how people talk about their brand online. We redeployed that technology to do exactly that. Then test filtering. In 2016, we published definitions of appropriate filtering and monitoring to support those schools with their new obligations around having to provide appropriate filtering and monitoring. So these are actually embedded inside keeping children safe in education. And so what we've done actually in the last 9 months, this was published 9 months ago, is a little utility that helps you to test out aspects of your own filtering. So if you go to testfiltering.com, run the test, then it just merely goes to see if you've got your filtering provider, your filtering solution has aspects of both blocking illegal content, both child sexual abuse material, and also illegal or unlawful terrorist content, as well as adult content as well. So it gets around that, being the concerns around how you might test filtering and what that might do. So it actually goes away and tests it for you. So testfiltering.com is how you find that, and works on any connection. If you're at home as well, you can determine if you've got a filtering or blocking for adult content or inappropriate content as well. So if I return back to reporting, and this is split down between illegal and legal content online. So illegal content online, we've got a number of agencies that are already established where indeed you should be reporting illegal online content to. So child exploitation clearly is reported through to the National Crime Agency, or indeed CEOP, and reported online. Illegal child sex abuse material online should be reported to IWF. IWF.org.uk is how you would report that. Action Counters Terrorism is how you report concerns around terrorist content online. And finally, illegal hate speech online is the agency is True Vision, who receive your reports from the public around illegal hate speech online. But that is actually relatively straightforward, because the law determines this content to be illegal. There is much content that exists online that is legal. It's not illegal content but it is still significantly harmful. And so that's why I mentioned earlier on, report harmful content. That's why we established this national reporting centre, reportharmfulcontent.com. We will always encourage people to report concerns to the provider. So that bit, whether that's Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, if you encounter content that you think is harmful, then you should go and report that to that particular provider. Often they don't know about it unless you actually report it to them. And so this is just an extract from the Report Harmful Content first annual report that was published in May. You can see there in that blue bar how we would consider what we classify as legal but harmful content. And so what we've done is we have looked through all the various different terms and conditions, and this is how we operate the service. It's in conjunction with community standards and terms and conditions. And these are typically all excluded or would be excluded from the major providers. And so, like I say, we encourage people to report content to the provider, YouTube, for example. If the response you get back is not what you were expecting, or indeed they've not taken any action, or you've had no response, that's when, again, a secondary report this is where you can report stuff to reportharmfulcontent.com, and then they'll assess the case, given the information that you provide and the case number that you provide, and then provide some context. So in 50% of cases, we'll come back with information about why we think that won't get removed, or it doesn't actually contravene particular the provider's community standards, for example. But in 50% of the cases, we do take that on, and then we'll actually represent and actually try to get that content removed, and we've got a 93% takedown rate. So as you can see there in the top left-hand side, the responses, the initial responses that we provide. And then in terms of what the content is that's been reported, that we received that's reported, on the right-hand side, you can see that particular breakdown. So it's primarily bullying and harassment content that is legal but harmful that we take on and we actually report to providers, forgive me. The one surprise that we've had, and this is the bottom left-hand side, is that nearly a third, 32% of those reports that we've received indeed have had some form of negative mental health associated with it. Indeed, 13% of them reported suicidal ideation. So the impact of harmful content online is significant, and that was a surprise that we've actually that we've seen and that we've actually noted as well. So as I particularly draw this to a close in the closing, couple of minutes, just this question about, well, how might you kind of stay up to date? And so we'd invite you to subscribe to both our monthly newsletter that we publish, as well as a monthly podcast. So whether that is reading content or indeed listening to content, like I say, I'd invite you to subscribe and to receive those. We'll try to provide all that kind of information, the latest information. This is a very fast-changing world, and we provide all that in those particular formats. And then these two magic words, and finally, Safer Internet Day. Like I said at the outset, this is where I'm going to finish. Safer Internet Day, you can see it next year is on the 9th of February. That's 9th February 2021. The theme that we're focusing on next year is going to be around critical evaluation. Now, as it turns out, that is a really apt and relevant subject. At least that's what children are very much telling us, the experiences they've had over the course of the last 8 months. Understanding the authenticity and the accuracy of information online is critical at the moment, particularly at the moment. We are very much into the production of the education packs, conversation starters, Safer Internet Day TV content as well. So we hope to publish all of that next month, well in advance of the day. The registration would ask you if there is a call to action here, would invite you and ask you to go and register as a supporter for Safer Internet Day. So if you go to that particular the saferinternet.org.uk website, you can register there as a reporter, as a supporter, and we can get you on the map. There's some 2,000 supporting organisations that recognise, and we can recognise your efforts around Safer Internet Day. If I haven't mentioned it already, next year Safer Internet Day is on the 9th February. I think I've mentioned that once or twice before. So please do make a note of the date and plan to do something and use the materials that are provided. Mark the date. And there, folks, we have it. I've just provided some contact details there. So for the team and indeed the office, if you've got any particular questions that this is raised or that occurs to you later on, then please do drop them a line, give them a ring, or indeed follow us on social media. Hope that's been helpful, and it just leads me to say thank you. I'm going to turn now to the chat, and if anyone has got any particular questions that they wish to raise, then please do so.
I'll just jump in now and say thank you very much, David. I've been dipping between the two sessions that have been running. I'm sorry for the sound issue at the beginning. I forgot to mute my mic, but yeah, very valuable information there. That in this time, we can't impose enough importance around this issue. And when people are spending so much time delivering online and learning remotely, we can't allow this to slip from our minds, and all of the other threats that are around social media and the like. So thank you very much.
My pleasure. Well, it doesn't seem that there's any particular questions. Like I say, if anyone does have any questions that occur to them later on, then please drop us a line. But there we go, all done and dusted.
Thank you. If you do have any questions, and by all means send them straight to David, or if you forget David's email address or the other email addresses, send them on to me, and I'll be more than happy to forward them on to David. And I hope you all joined us again for the sessions that are coming up this afternoon. We've got who do we have this afternoon? We have got Google. We've got Jem from Google coming in, and who else? I can't find my list, I'm afraid. So yeah, lots of great speakers this afternoon. Another full day tomorrow, so please do join us, and remember to keep tweeting with #DCEdTechFest. Thanks very much. Cheerio. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.